This is why some people say you should never spend a night on Nikumaroro Island. In 1937, one of the most famous aviators in history, Amelia Earhart, set out on what was supposed to be the final leg of an incredible journey around the world. Amelia wasn't a pilot. She was a global celebrity. She was shattered aviation records, inspired millions of women, and became one of the most recognizable people on the planet. But on July 2nd, 1937, everything changed. Amelia and her navigator, Fred Noonan, were flying across a vast stretch of the Pacific Ocean toward a tiny speck of land known as Howland Island. The island was so small that finding it in the middle of the Pacific was often compared to finding a grain of sand in a swimming pool. As Amelia approached the area, radio transmissions indicated she was having trouble locating the island. The final messages were troubling. At one point, she reportedly radioed that they were running low on fuel and could not see the island. Then the transmissions stopped. Just like that, Amelia Earhart vanished. The US government launched one of the largest and most expensive search operations in history at the time. Ships searched thousands of square miles of ocean, aircraft combed the skies, investigators chased countless leads, but nothing was found. No airplane, no wreckage, no bodies, no answers for decades. Amelia Earhart's disappearance remained one of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. Then, 3 years later, something strange happened. In 1940, a British colonial officer working on a remote island called Nikumaroro made a startling discovery. Nikumaroro is a tiny uninhabited coral atoll located several hundred miles southwest of Howland Island. It's located hot, covered with dense vegetation, and surrounded by dangerous reefs. And on this island, workers discovered partial human remains. The skeleton was incomplete. Several bones were missing. Whoever this person was, their remains appeared scattered across the island. Nearby, investigators also found artifacts suggesting someone may have been stranded there for an extended period of time. At the time the bones were examined by experts, their conclusion was that the remains belonged to a man. Because of that determination, the possibility that the bones belonged to Amelia Earhart was largely dismissed. And for many years, the mystery remained unsolved. Then, decades later, researchers revisited the case. In 2017, a forensic anthropologist re-examined the original measurements that had been taken from the bones before they were lost. Using modern-day forensic techniques, he reached a very different conclusion. According to his analysis, the remains were actually more consistent with a woman of Amelia Earhart's size and proportions than almost anyone else in the historical records available. While not everyone agreed with the findings, the study reignited interest in the Nikumaroro theory. Could Amelia have survived the crash? Could she have landed on the island and lived there for days or even weeks? Researchers began looking more closely at the evidence. Over the years, exhibitions to Nikumaroro uncovered several intriguing items. Among them were fragments of personal belongings and evidence that someone may have been living on the island after 1937. One discovery in particular attracted certain attention. A jar believed to have contained a freckle cream that may not sound significant, but Amelia Earhart was known to use freckle cream because she disliked having freckles and often tried to cover them. To some researchers, this was another clue pointing towards Amelia. Of course, none of this proves she was there, but it added another piece to the puzzle. If Amelia did somehow reach Nikumaroro alive, what happened next? That's where things becomes truly unsettling. Nikumaroro is home to one of the largest land-dwelling arthropods on Earth, the coconut crab. These creatures are enormous, Some have a leg span approaching 3 feet. Their claws are powerful enough to crack coconuts, crush bones, and tear apart surprisingly tough materials. At night, hundreds of them emerge from their burrows and spread across the island searching for food. Researchers who have spent nights on Nikumaroro have described seeing coconut crabs everywhere in the darkness. Their movements can sound like something crawling just outside your tent. Some scientists have proposed a chilling theory. If Amelia crash landed on the island and survived initially, she may have eventually died there from injury, dehydration and starvation, or exposure. Afterward, coconut crabs could have scattered and consumed portions of her remains. In fact, experiments conducted by researchers have shown that coconut crabs are fully capable of moving bones and carrying skeletal remains significant distances. That could potentially explain why the skeleton found on Nikumaroro was incomplete and scattered. Again, it's only a theory. No one knows what happened to Amelia Earhart. Her airplane has never been conclusively found. Her final moments remain unknown, and the mystery continues to fascinate historians nearly a century later. But if the Nikumaroro theory is correct, then one of history's greatest aviation pioneers didn't disappear into the ocean at all. Instead, she may have survived the crash, reached a remote island, waited desperately for rescue that never came, and spent her final days completely alone on a tiny patch of land in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And if that wasn't tragic enough, nature may have eventually erased almost every trace she was ever there. To this day, nobody can say for certain what happened to Amelia Earhart, but on Nikumaroro Island, the mystery still lingers. And when the sun goes down and the coconut crabs emerge from the darkness, it's easy to understand why some people believe the island may hold the final chapter of her story.